Hello and welcome to Get It Started, Get It Done, the Banyan Security podcast covering the security industry and beyond. In this episode, our host and Banyan's Chief Security Officer, Den Jones, speaks with Chase Cunningham. Chase is a retired Navy chief cryptologist with more than 20 years' experience in cyber forensic and analytic operations. He holds a PhD in Computer and Information Systems Security and Information Assurance, and is known in the industry as Dr. Zero Trust. We hope you enjoy Den's discussion with Chase Cunningham.
Hi everyone, welcome to Get It Started, Get It Done. I am your host, Den Jones, Banyan Security's latest entrance into podcasting, and hopefully we don't screw it up each time. But every session, episode, we're going to have a great guest. And this week, I'm delighted to have Dr. Zero Trust himself, Chase Cunningham. So, hey Chase, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. You must be, you must be slow on guests if you're dragging the bottom of the barrel already.
Well, we figured, there's people like yourself that are going around the circuit, senior people, great careers, advising other people, and you've seen and done the whole Zero Trust game. So, I'd love a couple of things. So you and I met after I joined Banyan, but you had some origin story of how you'd heard about me before I even joined Banyan. So do you want to share with everyone any recollection there?
Well, I mean, I think I ran across your story as far as one of the folks that had actually done the work at a big organization. When they told me that you were going to be joining Banyan, I was like, for real? Because I heard he actually knows what the fuck he's doing, which is rare in this space.
So that I think goes back to my days in Adobe, right, where I was trying to get 40,000 people moved on to this new platform and stuff. And to be fair, right, before we even went in that project, my architect, he was convincing me that this was the right thing to do, and I was sitting there thinking, why do I want to make my 2000 application Okta authentication experience, more fragile or something? I just wasn't sure. So, yeah. And so first of all, could you share a little background about yourself? How did you get into security? And where did you kind of grow through the ranks?
Yeah, so I'm incredibly lucky with my career. I could have just as easily wound up in Leavenworth, I think, because I was military. I was doing stuff that I wasn't supposed to be doing on board ship. Somebody noticed that, I had a bit of a, I guess you'd say, talent for technology, for the network side of things, the programming sort of computer side of things. Back before I was actually a trash programmer, which I'll say right now, you don't want me developing code. Like, I'm a bad code author. But and then I just sort of fell into cyber after that in the Intel community, and was lucky enough to do a bunch of work in government agencies, follow on to that, and then Forrester following that. So I mean, that's one reason why I try as hard as I can to help other people out, because I 1,000% am just lucky that other people have taken chances on me, and I just happen to be in the right place at the right time. It's not because I'm smart or good at my job. It's just because I'm lucky.
It's so there's a couple of things. It's like, one is you've been someone that's devoted yourself to service and serving others, right? So whether being in the forces, and even in your time in Forrester, right, you're engaging with people and trying to take that knowledge and share that knowledge and stuff. So now that gets me onto another thing. So books. So talking about sharing knowledge. So you've got books, and then there's an interesting story between the number of books you have and the number of parents you have. So what's that about?
Let's see. So I've got 3 comic books. I've got 1, 2, 3 sort of grown-up books, I guess you'd say. And I'm working on another one. And I just found out this week that my cyber warfare book is now in the Cyber Canon Hall of Fame. So that's kind of cool to be able to say I have a Hall of Fame book. Not that anybody knows what the Cyber Canon Hall of Fame is, but hey, it matters to me.
Yeah, that's pretty slick. Now, And then the parents. So I thought I heard you've got equal number of parents to books.
I think I've got the same. Yeah, it's 6 and 6. Yeah.
Awesome. And then so of all the paints you've got, which one is like what's your standout one that you kind of like to brag about?
The coolest one was working with some folks at the University of North Texas, where we figured out basically how to do. And this was, gosh, man, this was back in like 2014 or 15. I kind of wish I would have gone further with this as far as making it into a product, because we could have made some money. But it was being able to do snapshots of virtual instances on the fly, and then anything that happened after the snapshot was an anomaly. And depending on if it was outside of the bounds of the norm you set, you could basically revert to that known good state. And I mean, like I said, we were doing this 4 or 5 people back in 2014-ish. Now the very similar stuff that I've seen roll out there, like it's a legit, big time company thing. So I guess cool on us for figuring it out, bad on us for not realizing we had a product that could have made us, beach money.
Yeah, could have made you millions. It's I think it's hard sometimes because you're just sitting there trying to solve problems, and you'll do something and you'll not think of, holy shit, that could be a product. And I've worked with a lot of great people in Adobe and even at Cisco where they leave the company because that idea that they figured out at the company or some twisted version of it, they go take that outside and they turn that into a new startup. And that for me is pretty cool. I'd never had the balls to do that, but it's good when someone does it, right?
Yeah, I've never had enough vision, I guess, to go, okay, well, let's make this a product. I've just been like, oh, cool, we solved a problem. Let's file a patent on it. But maybe eventually start, being more useful. I mean, but then again, that whole thing of I think if you're chasing the dollar all the time, it just gets to be a grind. Whereas if you're just doing the work and I'm not like that's that friggin' rainbow thing of every day is amazing, but just doing the work that you kind of get something out of, the money and stuff will eventually take care of itself, I think.
Yeah, I built up a reputation of getting shit done, and for me, it was always a case of I just take pride in delivering results and trying to deliver stuff that other people fail to deliver. I mean, it's so it was always for me. I just always thought, well, good rewards come to people that deliver good shit. And at the end of it, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm not thinking I'm going to become mega rich. I think in this industry, we're all financially, or most of us are all financially doing decent compared to a lot of other industries. So don't be greedy about it. But I then follow the let's get some excitement. And me joining Banyan, right? I'd never done a startup gig. So for me to do that, I was like, yeah, let me try that. I'm in a position in my life where this makes sense and it's a kind of fun role that I want to take on. So
yeah, I'm a farm kid, so anytime I'm not sitting on a tractor baling hay, like I've done well. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, well, you're talking to a guy who is a Scottish postman.
Yeah, you were a mailman. Yeah.
And yeah, I was walking the wet, windy, snowy streets of Scotland thinking, is this what life's all about?
Yeah.
And then as you start to get like into your kind of years where you're going out drinking and clubbing and stuff, I was just like, I can't do the clubbing thing and then get up at 4:30 in the morning. It's literally I'm getting in from the club, showered, changed, and then I'm going to walk the streets. And the only thing was, a good way to walk off your drunken hangover. That was the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, I did my hangover days when I was active duty. So luckily, it was kind of part of the course. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. Hey, so right, so the name Dr. Zero Trust. So is it a marketing thing, or is it? I mean, like where did
like I said earlier, again, like I'm just lucky and blessed because I was actually doing an advisory with somebody and I was talking about their ZT thing and their strategy, and I was just rattling off technology, and the guy was like, he's like, man, you got a doctorate in computer science. And I was like, yeah. He goes, you should have a doctorate in zero trust. And I was like, okay, cool, why not? So I don't know. I literally just started doing it as kind of a giggle on my own, and it seems like it's turned out to where at least folks recognize, that name, which is fine by me. But yeah, there was no massive forethought on it. It was just more bumbling good luck.
Well, it's funny because sometimes you stumble into those things, right? Um, and even like us naming the podcast, when we're talking about that within Banyan, it's like, okay, well, what's your reputation then? And I'm like, well, get shit done. And I'm like, well, let's not call it get shit done, because one of the other things is sometimes people struggle to get it started, never mind get it done, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I get shit started as well, I guess, because otherwise, how can you get shit done if you don't get it started? So you kind of stumble into these things. So in your journey, so you've done in your advisory position, and even like a lot of the other circles you're in, you meet a lot of CISOs, CISOs or CSOs, whatever term you want to use, right?
Those, whatever they call them, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Well, so what do you think makes a good CISO? And then what kind of CISOs have you bumped into that you've been like, you're just an idiot?
Well, so I mean, I think the ones that seem to really get it are typically the people that have come from, they did the work, right? Where they were like network engineers or programmers or somebody where they've done the work and they saw a career opportunity or a business opportunity, and they kind of climbed up the ladder, and now they're in a leadership executive position. And those folks, they're like you're saying, they're more about figuring out the fix and then going off and applying the fix and then continually doing that. And they get it because they're very pragmatic. They understand, where they can and can't kind of do things technically, and then all the other stuff falls around it. And I think that those are the folks that you see that are doing well in the space. Not that they have to be technical, but at least the folks that understand from doing the work how the technology fits into that. Where I run into it that's really been sideways is the straight up bureaucracy policy weenies that we get in the space, where they've never sat on pause, they've never configured a firewall, they don't know the reality of like what tech does and can't do, and they're the department of no because some checklist says that this shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? And I don't like dealing with those people. Matter of fact, like if feel like I'm in a place where I have to deal with those folks, I'll just pop smoke and be like, look, you guys let me know when you want to be real about this, because it's not worth everybody's misery to try and. I can't convince somebody if they're not going to be convinced because it's not on a freaking checklist.
Yeah, so I've met a lot of them, and the funny thing for me is, years ago I was leading the service management team in Adobe, and I hated service management. I thought that was so much bullshit. I get the processes and I get the stuff, and I think the reason I thought it was bullshit, and I ended up speaking in Vegas at a conference on this, and I was like, I don't know why. I'd never thought in my career I'd be on stage at Vegas talking about IT service management, but here I am, right? And I'm like, I don't know why I'm here. And again, it was because they wanted someone who could lead that program in Adobe, and they wanted it done, right? And the reality was, though, is I was like, the reason I don't like it is because I met so many idiots along the way that were reading the book, and all they done is, if it's not in the book, I'm not going to do it. Or if you're doing it and it's not in the book, then you're doing it wrong. And I'm like, there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to do this thing. We're in business. We're running a business. And these are tools in our toolkit to help us run the business. And if you apply a hammer when it really should be, now you and I were in a talk a while ago, and so I think someone said, was it like a cake or some shit? I can't remember. Hammer a cake or something, like
a cake with a hammer, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's brilliant, because the problem is, in the security game, the service management game, too many games, you've got these people that just want to like always follow whatever's in the book, because they don't have the ability to look at how the business is operating and be like, yeah, we're running a business. And I even look at that, the same thing with zero trust. People are trying to go through this zero trust journey, and they read all the pamphlets, and they're very literate, but they're not really kind of realizing that with all the guidance and all the information out there, how you apply that in your own company varies. And the one thing that's right for one company isn't necessarily right for another company, because they've got different challenges. The way Google done Beyond Corp was brilliant, but it wasn't going to work for us in Adobe, because we didn't have, we had different constraints, and we didn't have the same requirements of the business. So the reality was yeah, we could read the Beyond Corp paper till we're blue in the face, it didn't translate, So yeah, and the good thing is, because you and I are both going to RSA around the corner, so we are undoubtedly going to bump into both camps. We're going to bump into the CISOs that we have trust and respect for, and we're going to bump into some clowns. So I guess if you're watching this podcast before RSA and you fall into you just want to read the book and preach to the Bible of the security gods, you probably don't necessarily want to talk to us too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and my personal philosophy on anything is, if you're going to come to me with a no, you have to have a reason why, and then you have to have an alternative. That's all I ask. Like, if you're going to say no, don't say it's no because this thing says it's no. Great, I can read just fine, but give me a real reason, and then tell me what's the alternative to fix the problem. Because otherwise, it's just a thing. Like you said, it's just a tick mark in a book.
Yeah, and I think the reality is we're paid basically to solve problems for businesses. So if you're saying no without an alternative suggestion, you're not solving a problem. You're actually creating a problem. So
yeah,
that's I'm so with you on that one. Now, I heard there's a couple of things. So I heard you're a big deep fake kind of enthusiast. I'm going to say enthusiast, right? How would you describe your experience or love?
Aficionado, maybe. I don't know. That sounds very elegant. I don't know. I like messing with them. I think they're dangerous. I briefed Congress on deep fakes and sort of that whole thing. It's crazy how good they're getting, how fast and how commoditized it is, and it scares the hell out of me what you can do with a deep fake now. Although it is fun to be able to like make myself Schwarzenegger or something.
I remember years ago in Adobe we were doing, I think that there was a lot of show and tell where the engineering teams, especially the Skunk Works projects, they're showing you stuff. And I remember seeing one of our engineering summits, like some deep fake type stuff. And there was two sides of this camp, right? One was I can help create the stuff. And the other one is I can help detect that the stuff is deep fake. So it was really weird how we're building capabilities that enable both, right? And then you could also see the dilemma and the people kind of like thinking socially and ethically whether what they're doing is the right direction for the world, right? And that, for me, like that was a really cool thing to be kind of on the sidelines to see in the background.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff, but it does, like you said, it's Pandora's box, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, hey, so certifications. I kind of, you and I have been a couple of talks where we've almost kind of made fun of, sometimes they're called bullshit, on the value of certifications. We're attending conferences where you get credits for certifications, and I've got a CISSP. Don't know how I got it. I can't remember. Actually, this story is a crazy one, but what's your view there? Does that make you a good security professional because you got a CISSP or those kind of certifications?
I mean, I think, okay, so number one, if I step back from my soapbox and I go, okay, it's unfair for me to say certs are total horseshit, but because I'm lucky enough that I've got a little bit of history in the market, so I'm past needing a cert for a job. However, I think that they're gatekeepers. I think that they're created by a market where people know that this is a good way to keep the gates up, keep the barriers in front of folks. I don't personally think that we need certifications for the roles that we have. I think they're good for letting you know, okay, somebody's at least put the time. I mean, a freaking PhD is right there on the wall. Like, that's just a different type of cert, and all it means is I'm willing to suffer and flog myself for years on end to produce some paper that nobody's going to read, right? But the value is, that person will put the effort in to do that thing. Other than that, it's just a piece of paper on the wall. It's glorified TP, which is certs. And like I had CEH, I had CHFI, I had CISM, I had 5 or 6 others, And like over time, I realized that I was just collecting alphabet soup, and it didn't really make me any better at my job. So why was I wasting time and money and resources on it? It just, it skews the market, I think, and I don't think it does a service that we're actually trying to look for people that should be doing the work.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting for me because someone described this a long time ago. They're like, you want to get it because it just shows to other people that you have the ability to start something and see something through, and then, like you say, you do the work, and maybe it'll show there's a basic level of knowledge or skill, but the reality is it still doesn't mean that you're going to be a creative thinker when you get in the company. It doesn't mean that you're going to really go to like the ends of the earth to help deliver some project over the finish line. um and I've managed people where they were doing like their MBA and stuff, and I was like, let's talk about why you're doing that. I mean, are you doing that for personal growth or are you doing that for career growth? Because it's not going to have the impact from a company perspective. You're not going to get suddenly promoted because you got an MBA. And I think that's the thing I kind of get worried about when people think of all those certifications. Or the other one is when people are posting for jobs and they're like, the minimum requirement is, and they start rattling off all that shit, and you're like, well, wait a minute, I would rather not have that for someone who I know is going to be really technically gifted and creative and just work their ass off and learn. Like that for me is, you know, I'd trade one for the other. The hard thing comes in, well, how do you know that they're able to learn? And maybe that's where those certificates are trying to be evidence of some learning shit, right?
Yeah, I think if for me personally, like if I was still running sock stuff or whatever, I'd put people into a practical exercise and be like, look, here's the objective, here's all the stuff in front of you, go. They could stack their giant thing of certs in front of me or whatever, and I'd be like, cool, I'll use them in the shitter later. Like I just, it is what it is. And when I took the ultimate hacking cert a long time ago, and I went and did something for the final hack that wasn't supposed to happen, and I told him I'm done, and the guy was like, no, that's not right, you got to do it this way. And I was like, well, why is this ultimate freaking hacking if I found this easy way to do this? Like that's what a hacker would do. And he's like, well, that's not how this works. And I was like, well, then I don't want your goddamn cert.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and so I think the dilemma is the education systems. What are we churning out here? Are we churning out people that can follow and
Turn out people take a test.
People that can be creative thinkers?
Yeah. I mean, my kids are in school, and it starts very, very young now. They teach them to take a test. Like I think right now is the end of the school year, and I mean we're talking bigger problems here, but my kids have got 10 days off of actual learning to learn how to take this freaking test so that they take the test. It's not, they don't know the stuff. They know how to vomit it back and take the test.
Yeah. They know how to read, learn, repeat, right?
Yeah. Which is not, I mean, it's not thinking until later on in life, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not ideal. So, how do you explain your job to friends and family that aren't in our industry?
I tell them that I work in cybersecurity advisory, and I try and help organizations figure out how to approach the sort of bad side of the internet a little more strategically than tactically. That's really about the best I can put it. Most of them roll their eyes and go, "Sounds really boring," and move on to something else.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing, IT people, we're cooler than accountants, but we're not much better really than that. I don't think. We're not exactly the coolest kids in the room usually, right?
Yeah, and my family's all like country farm people, whatever. They're like, yeah, I could care less. Just go on about their day.
I at some point in Scotland, I was getting hit up. So this is late 90s. And you're building computers from scratch and all this shit. And at some point you end up being the go-to person, like in the circle, for fixing anything computer related. And I remember when I moved here, I'm like, I don't want to be in that position again. So when people would ask me, like, I'd be at parties and they'd be like, "What do you do for a job?" And I'd be like, "I'm an igloo repairman." And you're in California, San Jose, right? So there's no chance in hell there's going to be an igloo nearby. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm an igloo repairman." And they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm struggling to find work right now, but that's a trade I'm in." And they're like, "It's a trade?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I also used to tell people at one point, and when I was in Scotland, we had a sea life center near where I lived, and I was always like, "Yeah, I'm a trainer at the sea life center," and they're like, "It's what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, a dolphin trainer." And they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah." I went, but sometimes I got in the wrong pool, and there was a shark in the pool, and it bit my leg, and I've got this scar in my leg from a childhood accident years ago, and I used to go like, "Oh look, see, there's a scar."
Yeah, I've so that I didn't have to be tech support for people. I've told them literally that like I strip for nickels, and like
Oh, that was yeah. I've got an X-rated one. I'll share over beers when we see. Just remind me what I told people I used to do at a New Year's party one night. It was my brother lived at the border between Scotland and England, and his wife at the time, she worked in Harrods, and there's all these posh people that came up from London, Harrods, workers, and they partied, and they were asking me what I'd done for the job because they always look down on the Scottish people, right? So they were giving me shit, and I ended up deciding, I'm gonna tell them I'm blah. So yeah, remind me. I'll tell you. It's a really funny story, but not one that we should document.
sure.
So yeah. Now, when you're at these kind of parties, like I like to work hard and play hard. What's your favorite drink?
I'm a whiskey, old fashioned rye type of person. Yeah. Plus, one or two of those and you're good.
Bourbon whiskey, like, or Irish or Scottish or
Oh, I like Kentucky. I mean, I'm like, if I'm gonna be the redneck I am, I gotta be full redneck all the time. So.
you got to do that. Yeah. I am being the Scottish guy I am. I stopped drinking whiskey when I was about 18. Um, I figured my personality type and the amount of alcohol I'd maybe consume at the age 18 probably wasn't my best move. So,
Mhm.
I try and stick to beer, which right now I'm now trying to make my own beer, which is a very interesting endeavor because I like to cook. So for me, it's like, cooking, and when you make beer, it's like a recipe as well. So
Nice.
trying to go through that, yeah, and experiment there. So first batch was okay. Second batch was pretty decent. So we're working on the third batch now. So maybe by the time we get to RSA, I'll bring some along, and you can try.
If nobody goes blind, then you're doing it right.
I've not gone blind yet. So yeah. So if you had one takeaway for the audience today, Chase, what would it be? What do you want them to leave and think? Man, those two idiots were having some shitty conversation, but I did remember one thing.
I mean, I think it's really the thing I would say is the title of your session here, right? Get it started, get it done. I think the one that's most important is like what you were saying, get it started. I deal with so many people all the time that are floundering around and trying to figure out whatever. Don't let good be the enemy of outcomes. Just go start doing things, and what's up. So start applying the controls where the bad guys are living. Don't go down checklists, whatever. But just good Lord, man, get started.
Yeah, start somewhere. I mean, I think that's always the thing, right? Is people, there's a couple of things. One is there's a million vendors hitting you with we do zero trust. And many of them do zero trust depending on the lens you're going to apply. So that's true and all, but the reality is then you're looking inward and saying, well, what are the problems I need to solve? And then take the zero trust marketing term away. The solutions that are out there are the solutions I already have. Actually, sometimes maybe get them good, right? But do they help me solve the problems? And if you want to call that zero trust, or if that falls into the zero trust bucket or the many buckets of zero trust, brilliant. So yeah, no, that's great advice. So Chase, thank you very much. Been great chatting with you. I mean, you and I have been getting to work together quite a bit more recently over the months and stuff. So it's been awesome. We're both going to be at RSA, so I'm looking forward to that. You're going to be around the booths and stuff, but if people want to catch up with you online or anything like that, how do people get a hold of you?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, Twitter, easy to find there, at Synja, Cynja, Chase, Chasec. Lots of C's in there is my Twitter handle. And then pretty easy to catch me on social media. And if you're looking for me at RSA, I'm a big dude, so you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Chase. And everyone, thanks for paying attention, staying awake for what's probably about 30 minutes. Appreciate it. We've got some more great guests coming up in future episodes. We're going to actually invite some of our Banyan customers to come and talk to us and talk about things close and near and dear to them. So stay tuned. Thank you, everyone. Be safe. And hopefully we'll see you at RSA. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about Banyan Security and find future episodes of the podcast, please visit us at banyansecurity.io. Special thanks to Urban Punks for providing the music for this episode. You can find their track Summer Silk and all their music at urbanpunks.com.